Hello painters, I'm Debbie from acrylicpouring.com and I'm back today for an experiment. I have a side-by-side experiment of 3 products. Well, in fact 2 products and an absence of product. So let's see how we get on with that. Now, because I used to paint a lot on tiles when I was first starting with acrylic pouring, I still get a lot of questions now about tiles and about things like records and other non-porous surfaces, about the best way to prepare them for acrylic pouring to make sure that the paint is going to stay stuck long term. Mostly my answer is, as long as it's clean and dry and grease free, you can pour on the tile, make sure it's fully dried, leave it a month, provide a good high quality protective finish or sealer, and it should be absolutely fine. And all of mine have been, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth experimenting with some other products to see what will happen. So I've got 2 products to test today. Let's get my glasses on. The first one is a Deco Art Media Gesso. That's this one, comes in a very cute little pot. If I just read the instructions, it says, use as a primer to seal and add tooth to most surfaces for maximum acrylic and oil paint adhesion. Water-based, acid-free, fast-drying, opaque, matte finish. Smooth, extremely flexible, highly pigmented, blah, blah, blah. Apply with a brush or palette knife, let dry before painting, soap and water cleanup. So I'm going to try this gesso on one of these tiles. The other product that I have is this one. This is an Americana paint adhesion medium, and this one was completely new to me, but I found it in my local art store and I thought, oh well, that's got to be definitely worth a try. So let me read what this one says. Improves acrylic paint adhesion on slick surfaces such as glazed ceramics, which is absolutely what I'm going to test it on today, metal, plastic, glass, wax and even soap. Use alone or mixed 1-to-1 with acrylic paint as a primer before painting, soap and water cleanup. So I've got my 3 tiles. This one here I'm going to leave as it is. So it's just clean, nothing else will happen. This one I will put the gesso, and this one I'm going to put this paint adhesion medium, and then we'll do a pour and see what happens. Okay, so my 3 tiles are ready. I have the tile with no preparation at all. This is the one with the gesso, so let's take a look. Let's get my spectacles on. And the surface on this is matte, and as you can see, perhaps, can you see? There we go, I think it's focusing in. You can see just little ridges in the paint from the gesso, but it's very smooth, very nice, and I think if I'd used a slightly better brush than this crappy old one I had, I'd probably get a nicer finish on that. It was actually a really nice gesso. Of the ones that I've tried, this Deco Art Media Gesso was actually really nice. So that was the gesso. This one was the paint, oops, there we go, the paint adhesion medium, and I kept looking at this for ages and thinking, why is it not drying? Because I expected it to go matte, but can you, I don't know if you'll be able to see very well, it's actually completely glossy, really glossy, as if it were still wet, and it does have some lines in it which you can see where the gloss kind of captures the light, but actually it's much smoother. So the paint adhesion medium is much smoother than the gesso. So now I'm just going to flip 3 cups on top. I've mixed up 3 tiny of these little mini cups that I love so much. I've mixed up 3 cups. They've all got exactly the same paint in. I wasn't too bothered about the colours or anything like that. I'm just going to flip them all on these tiles, and then we'll see what happens. So let's go with our unfinished tile first of all. This is just the plain glossy tile. This one is the gesso. And this one is our paint adhesion medium. Oop. Oh, and seeing I've spilled that one before we even start, let me just lift that one off and we'll go with that one first. So my paints have been sat there for a little while because I started this project and then got distracted by something and went off and did something else. So I've mixed these paints and put them in these cups like 3 days ago now, so hopefully they'll still be okay. I did put a little lid over the top, but they're probably a bit thicker than they should be. So let me just move these about. Let's see, I might try and save a little bit of paint, but not too much. I'm not too worried about what they're going to look like. The object of the exercise is just to test the adhesion of them. So I'm not going to worry too much about colours or composition or anything like that. I'm just going to pour the paint over the tiles, let it dry, and then we'll see what happens in terms of how well it sticks and whether any of these additives make any difference compared to just pouring on the tile alone without anything. However, I may as well just tap to finish off the edges just in case they turn out nice. So there's number one. This one is number two. You know, I'm just going to let it go on the desk. I will clean it up in a minute anyway. So this is our gesso. I don't think we'll notice any difference in terms of how well the paint probably moves across the surface, because there's not enough difference with the, you know, the rough surface of the gesso, for example, to make any difference with how it flows. And that one is done. And then number three, this one is just our plain tile without anything on the surface to prepare it. Whoa, finger in the paint. My hands are getting kind of slippery now. Okay. Dab in the sides. Ooh, I'm getting my hands really messy. Okay. Ooh. So there we are, my 3 tiles are poured. So now I'm just going to go and wash up my hands, and I'll let these dry for a few days, and then we'll see if we can scratch the paint off. So my 3 tiles are now dry, and I have to say I've not at all been surprised by the results, because basically it's borne out experiments that I've carried out myself and paintings that I've done myself in the past too. So let's take a look. This is the one done with the paint adhesion medium. If you ignore the fact that I managed to stick my finger in it somehow along the way by mistake, what I want to show you, if we can focus in, is the surface. You see where the paint is cracking here, and it's also uneven. There are, as I run my fingers, there are little puckers. So we can focus back in. There are little puckers on it where the paint is uneven, and this is typical of the kind of results that I get if I put any surface preparation at all on my tiles. Now, it's not to say there's anything wrong with the products are absolutely perfect, and if you were just painting on tiles in a, should we say, a normal way, then these products would undoubtedly work perfectly. But as soon as you put some kind of surface like this on a non-porous surface like a ceramic tile, even if you leave it to dry for several days like I did, and then you pour on the top, just all of that damp from the thickness of the paint, the fact it takes like 2 or 3 days to dry, and it just softens and brings up whatever surface layer you've got on there, causing either these cracks or the kind of uneven puckered surface. So this one was the adhesion medium. This one was the gesso, so we can focus in on that one. And it's basically exactly the same. We've got all these little ridges in the paint and little cracks. You see here the ridges? Yeah, there you can get a good view of where the gesso underneath, it comes away when we get that gesso wet again by putting such a lot of paint on the top that we get from pouring. This one, however, is the one that had no surface preparation at all. Let's zoom in, and although it's a matte surface, as you'd expect, it's absolutely flat and perfect. There's no puckering, no cracking or anything like that in it. And this is the one that had no preparation. So I honestly do think from this experiment and from all of the ones that I've carried out personally in the past, that you get a better result if you don't prep your tile, other than make sure it's clean and dry. Now, in terms of how well the paint is stuck on here, if I got my fingernail in here and I really pushed, let's see if I can. Actually, no, I can't. I was going to try. I was thinking if I got the fingernail in there and really pushed, I'd probably be able to get that paint off. And I guess if I was determined, or if I had some kind of knife or something, that I would. Oh yeah, there we go. I just got a little bit there where it was a bit thinner. I just scrape it really hard with my fingernail than I can bring the paint off the tile. However, this is with an unfinished surface. I've found that if I put a sealer on the top, they are absolutely fine. I've got a tile that I poured 9 months ago and I keep it next to my computer. It is my personal coaster every day, and it has my coffee mug on, and you know, I use it to, I have my notepad on top and I write on it and all kinds of things. It sits there and gets bumped about every day. And the surface on it with the polyacrylic finish that I use is absolutely fine. So I think, yes, these products using a gesso or an adhesion medium are absolutely fine, but with a ceramic tile you are more likely to get a better and flatter result if you don't use anything and just pour directly on the tile itself. So I hope that has been helpful for you, and it's good to see some examples of what can happen, and I hope that you will follow a few more of my pouring experiments in the future.